Hi everybody, welcome back to the Unreal Engine stream. We're not actually live today. This is kind of pre-recorded because of some time constraint issues and some scheduling issues. But luckily, we're here today to deliver to you information about 4.16 before it comes out. So I have some awesome developers with me, Josh, Ori, and Lena. You might recognize them from previous streams, unless I haven't had you on a stream before. I don't.
I've been on a stream.
You've been on one. I have you on a stream, and you've been on a few. I love you, Lena. So let's hop right in.
I don't feel memorable.
Oh, no, you're plenty, man. Josh, I'm sorry. We'll hop right in, and you can talk about all the awesome stuff you did and make you more memorable.
Okay,
It'd be great.
cool. Yeah.
So, throw us right in there, Clint. Pow. Okay, so here's our PowerPoint slide of all the different things that you can expect. First up, volumetric fog. If I can say words, it'd be helpful. Volumetric fog. This one's pretty cool. It's actually something that's been asked for quite a while, so we're really glad to be able to present it to you. You create volumetric domains, you set up your particle densities, and everything that these notes here say kind of gives you the gist of it. You can just sort of determine exactly what your player is going to be seeing. It's a lot of fun to work with. And you can have any number of lights affect these fogs, and your particle lights work for them too, so they look really nice if you, well, just kind of go crazy with your lighting. Try them out. Daniel Wright has a forum post on forums.unrealengine.com where you can give feedback. It's under the rendering section, by the way. You give feedback to Daniel Wright directly, and he will take it about this new volumetric fog system. So check it out and let us know what you think. Next up, image-based convolution of bloom. This one is really nice too, especially for your rendering artists. This is going to be much more high-end. You're not going to want to do a whole bunch of stuff on this one at runtime unless you're hitting really high-end hardware for your runtime for whatever reason you might be. But you can create nice effects like starbursts and etc. We'll have much more on that one and some tutorials, I'm sure, when it comes out. So be on the lookout for that if you're doing cinematics. Distance field lighting optimizations. This one's straightforward. It's things got optimized, everything's faster, it's more good, better, and all the things. So yeah. So check that one out. Next up, lightweight rigid body simulation. Ori, you got to work on this one, I believe, correct?
Yeah, so the idea with this is it's very similar to the existing simulation in PhysX, but you can actually call it from the animation graph directly. So we can go wide on things, and it's just in general faster way to do lightweight simulation of individual characters.
Cool. So there's less jumping back and forth between different systems in order to get that. And Alan, this is a screenshot from Alan Noon's GDC talk/tutorial that he gave about throwing around minions in Paragon. Yeah, can you comment on and that system is immediate mode. That is what that is up there. I was about to say, can you comment on it, but you did.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I guess to keep in mind is if you have characters that don't need to interact with one another, then you get huge performance benefits because each simulation is sort of on its own. That's why we get all this parallelism. So it's good for like ponytails and floppy bits on characters, but if you need like a single simulation of rubble, then it's not as good.
Okay, so it's good for those very important flappy bits, right, Lena?
Also, you can do IK, like you can do like mix with the animation node, like IK, all those things. So you can do like physics and then IK hook up to something and do stuff.
Yeah,
it's very cool.
That's really cool. All right. Next up, low-level clothing simulation. Lena, you said you knew a little bit on that one.
I don't really. So Ben Gallagher worked on it. So now we have MV Cross as a solver in the engine, and that's what's gonna be used in the 4.16. We have a lot more control over it. We are working on editor that actually you can author the weight of the cross and setting every data in the engine. So all those things are coming, but yeah, this will let us do all those things on top of it. So it's very cool. 4.16 has it. It might have some of the issue with the previous setup to new setup, but yeah, it should work pretty good.
Okay, cool. So be aware if you're transferring up from an old version. Yeah. Next up, Switch support. Josh, we're coming out of experimental. What's up with that?
Yes, Switch is ready to go. We've already had a game shipped on it, Snake Pass, which is there on the screen.
It's so cute. We love interviewing those guys.
Yeah, really awesome little game. So definitely go out and get it if you have a Switch. Don't play just Zelda. There's other games too, you know.
Yeah, there's plenty. Unbox the game is another Switch UE4 game.
Was that out?
I mean, it's coming out.
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
There's plenty of games in progress, but 4.15 had early version of Switch support, but now Snake Pass is out. We sent Shooter Game through Nintendo's certification process.
Shooter Game, the project.
Shooter Game, our sample project.
Oh, cool. I didn't even know about that.
Yeah, that's kind of like our most complete game, I guess. It has multiplayer and matchmaking and leaderboards and controller setup screens or whatever. All those options. Anyway, all those cool things useful for certification. And in general, it says here about the rendering. So on Switch, you can do anywhere from mobile style rendering using our original forward rendering from ES 2 and 3 style rendering, all the way up to full desktop deferred rendering. And then there's our new clustered forward rendering, which we did mostly for VR, but it's sort of like a in the middle rendering path or rendering style. So you have a lot of options of where, depending on what your content is, if you don't need the crazy deferred, crazy lighting stuff, you can run faster with the forward options. So when you start playing with it, you'll have options of what you want to do depending on what your game needs are. So
Really rad.
yes,
Next up,
go Switch.
yes. Next up is Xbox One. We're gonna just go through all the consoles.
Yeah, so Xbox One, we've switched over now to DirectX 12 officially. Is the default renderer. DX11 is still in there. So if you upgrade and you're depending on DX11 for whatever reason, it's still there. At some point, we're just going to deprecate it because we don't want to be testing old technology that we don't need anymore.
That's a good thing to note.
DX12 is ready to go if you're doing Xbox One stuff. And just like Switch, you'll need source code access. We don't have the binary version of it. So.
Yeah, they have to go through, for any of our consoles, of course, you have to go through the process of approval, getting approved through us, etc., and then you get access to GitHub pulls for that.
Yep.
So
yeah, so go talk to Nintendo or Microsoft or Sony about any of that.
absolutely. Next up, speaking of Sony, it's PS4.
All right, well, so this is more VR related. So this is the ability to have sort of the asymmetric multiplayer style games, which are really awesome in VR. My big problem with VR has been the solitary nature of it, but with this secondary screen functionality, then you can get multiplayer type things. We have people sitting on a couch with controllers or yelling at the guy in the VR headset. The VR guy, if you've seen the PS VR demos or whatever, the like the giant Godzilla monster chasing on little guys that are being controlled by the controller people. Anyway, it's really fun. It's a great way to have like multiplayer social VR style VR games. So
It's really nice.
yep.
VR mode updates is the next one on the docket here. Now, actually, we've done some previews of this one in depth. We had Lauren Ridge on, and we've had Zach Parrish on, and as part of their segments, Lauren's especially, we just dove right in and showed you a ton of what the VR editor is going to be able to do and what you can pick up right now off of GitHub. So that's all there for you. I'll let you check those out, but there's a list of the cool new features that they got into detail with previously. HTML5, WebAssembly, WebGL2.
Okay, so the technology of the web is always marching forward, and one of the big things recently coming is WebAssembly, which is a newer version of the method where you take a native language like C++ and it gets converted to JavaScript, but it's a very optimized, fast version of JavaScript that runs in all the browsers without any need for plugins or anything weird or extensions. So WebAssembly, or WASM, is supported by a couple of the browsers so far. It's not on all of them yet, but it is in Chrome and Firefox, even in the retail versions of those browsers. And it's coming for Edge and Safari, but I can't say when exactly. It's not up to us. But we get all sorts of awesome features from it. It's faster. The file system is better, better loading, better caching of data. We'll get threads, like proper full-on threading, which is awesome. And sort of at the same time, but unrelated, is WebGL2, which is a new version of the GL renderer for the web, which is actually ES 3.0. It is roughly the same as WebGL 2.0. A little confusing, but it's adding the new features of ES 3.0. So all this is coming. It's still kind of early access, experimental, whatever you want to call it, because not all the browsers are supporting it yet, so it's not full-on ready for widespread use. But if you want to start using it, do web development, then Chrome or Firefox will work out.
So get started now, and then as more support turns online, you'll have that support come online for you, right?
Right.
Cool. So 2 times faster garbage collection. We don't have any of the developers that specifically worked on this one here, but this one kind of speaks for itself, and the bullet points go into a little bit more depth to it. It's great.
And faster is better.
Faster
We like faster.
Faster is always better in engine terms right here.
Yes.
Let's see here. Kinematic bodies with simulated parents. Ori, you worked on this one. What exactly is this going to give developers for making games?
So this is kind of a cool effect. Up till now, when you had ragdolls, you couldn't have something like palms that were kinematic, but upper body that was simulated. It's kind of like a tree. But you can actually do that now. So, for example, you can have a guy that's fully simulated going down a zip line, but just his hands are kinematic. So you can drive the position of his palms to kind of fake a zip line effect, and the guy will just kind of ragdoll. Or you can have him climbing a cliff, jumping, things like that, driving a car. Like there's a lot of cool stuff you can do with it.
Okay, that sounds really nice because yeah, like as you said, it's kind of about that hierarchy of the bones. Like it used to be that it had to be top down,
Yep.
whatever was higher up in the priority would simulate lower, and
Yeah.
now this way you can kind of lock this thing and simulate everything else.
Yeah.
So yeah, you create cool dangling effects.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's
we
nice.
always joke about it, like falling. We want to fall while waving.
Yeah, you want to do, you
Fall
want to do
while
jazz
waving.
hands
How
while
can
you're
you
falling.
fall while waving?
Yeah.
And that's what we always talk about.
This is a really important feature that isn't in enough games, I think.
Jazz hands, for sure.
Jazz hands and falling while waving.
Yeah.
Very cool. So that's nice. Improved color grading tool. This is really just straight up as it appears. We have a whole bunch of new functionality to it. HSV mode was added. Dynamically changed the min-max values of the sliders depending on their type using control slider drag. So we have that, and reset buttons added. There's there's a reset button added to reset the whole color grading category, and yeah, so it's a little bit easier for setting up all your different categories of color grading. You're going to, if you're an artist out there working in, I guess, more rendering space as far as like post-process goes, you're going to want to be aware of these changes. They can be really helpful for you down the line. Let's see, animation modifiers. Lena, what does this mean for our early access users?
So this is one of the thing like when you add like a foot marker sound, or for example, you want to add a notifier for the foot marker, you have to do it every single animation. Whenever you import animation, you have to do it, and that's sometimes difficult to, or we make a mistake or not adding it, then it causes bug. So this is the automation system and editor feature where you can actually just add markers or notifiers with a button, just button click, and then it just adds it. You can create those modifiers, and you can use those modifiers to all the animations belong to Skeleton or selected animations or something like that. So it's the feature that lets you do a lot more editor functionality. Like you can, yeah. So that's a good example because you know foot is going down at that frame, and you know where foot location should be. So we can just add markers automatically. So
Cool.
it's a kind of editor functionality. But it's some automation system that lets you do a lot more stuff in the future. Like you can add specific notifiers for like hand location or something like that. So those things.
All right, very nice. We have another animation feature next.
Oh, so the pose driver, this has been on Twitch probably multiple times.
Yeah, we've talked about it before. Oh yeah.
Yeah, we talked about multiple times. This was on the GDC, the presentation too. So if it's RBF, like node in the anim graph, and now you can see a lot more options. You can drive by bone transform to bone transform or curved, or you can visualize a lot better. So if you have tried before, just try it. It's called pose driver in the anim graph, so you can try it. The good example is probably any rigger knows this, but any shoulder issue where you want to drive enable certain pose based on bone transform or something like that. That's basically a good example. So yeah.
Awesome. So next up, improved mesh paint tool. So this is really fun. We've had the mesh paint. We've had the Vertex mesh painting for quite a while now, but there's improved mesh paint tool, which is now supporting skeletal meshes. And it's an important note. It's not instance based. It's applied directly to the mesh. So if you start painting on one guy, all the guys are going to have that paint job. So just a heads up. But that's a brand new one for y'all to play around with. Spline IK solver. I don't know, would this fall onto you there, Lena?
So I mean, like our animation team, like Tom did this. So Spline IK, we never had a Spline IK, but we added this as part of the older rigging system we're working on. So yeah, now we have a Spline IK. You can set the list of the joint, and then it's gonna do the spline IK. You have a control point, you have a twist, you have a roll value. You can tweak them around and then stuff. So pretty cool.
Yeah, it seems nice. It's especially like in light of Snake Pass and other games out there that use like a lot of spline stuff out there.
Yeah, lots
So-
of spline stuff would work. We fixed some bugs, so I think it should work fairly like Maya now. So let's
Oh,
see.
that's very
Let's see.
cool. Yeah, so give us your feedback on that one too.
Yeah.
Detect material on mesh surfaces. This is a cool new feature that's been kind of exposed, I guess, to. It's been put together as a function for Blueprint. It's very, very useful for a lot of instances where you're working with color, what material you're hitting, etc. This is, as it says, supported by static meshes, procedural mesh components, and BSPs. It doesn't have skeletal mesh support yet, as far as I've been told, but this is very, very good for hitting things in your environment and getting back the material from the face index, so getting the very specific kind of material that you hit when it has like a lot of different things happening. So, look at animation node improvements. I was really looking forward to this one too, Lena.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, I love look at it. It adds so much character and personality at a runtime game. They're just like looking at things and feel more engaged. So this is cool.
Look at what they. This is just a small improvement in the look at system, the aim, kind of like aim node, and now you can use the look at location as an offset from joint if you want, or the visualizer should help you to debug any issue with it. We are still working on a lot of visualizing the node for other stuff, but yeah, we are slowly working through it, each node. But yeah, this is
very nice. All right. Next up, animation export improvements. What all is new and awesome about that?
So before you can export to whenever you export animation, it's exporting the source data, and the problem with that is if you retarget animation onto different character, you don't get that information. Or if you have anim dynamics on your character, then you don't get that information because the source data doesn't have that information. So if you want to see current animation playing on the current mesh and you want to export that data, exactly that's how you use the preview mesh option. So now you can create the animation from current to the preview animation, preview mesh. What that means is if you have a small animation guy and if you play this animation on the big guy, it's gonna actually export to that big guy as the animation and have all the like floppy bits going with it. So it just to help you to use the what you're looking at as the animation you're exporting compared to the source data that we imported. So
cool. It sounds like it's going to help out a lot of people for sure.
There was a lot of requests for the retargeted animation. I want to export the retargeted animation, and we didn't have that. So this is the option.
Yeah, it's a very popular feature, so I can see why they'd want that. Audio features, early access. So for this one, I'm going to say check out the bullet points, if I could talk again. And also check out the Aaron McLaren, Dan Reynolds live stream that we did about the audio features. He also did a GDC talk, which all of these are on our YouTube channel over on, well, YouTube, under the Unreal Engine channel. You can check them out, and I highly recommend it if you're an audiophile because this is pretty impressive stuff. And also he gets a little bit into how we work together with Valve for the Steam audio integration, which is what that one bullet point is right there.
The thing I care about here is that it has a lot of cool effects and everything in it, but what it does is it makes it so that the audio is going to sound the same on all platforms.
Mm-hmm.
Like before, we would have to target to that whatever platform specific audio playback APIs are, and so every thing could be a little different. So you author on PC, then you play it on PS4, it sounds totally different or whatever. But with this, everything's the same because we're doing all the code, so they all sound the same. So I'm very excited for this.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. So that's a good thing to note too. If you're developing for consoles, this is your friend. String tables for localization. This is just a really nice new feature, asset string tables. You can get yourself ready for localizing by putting in what you say in one language and then getting it ready for the next one. I have a feeling like I'm going to have to do a live stream to do a training stream to cover that because that's a thing that people request quite a lot, is to explain how they should be localizing their game. So it's really nice that we have just a straight up feature now and not just, telling you, well, you're going to have to come up with a method yourself. So that's nice. Virtual keyboards on Android, early access. So this one is exactly what it sounds like and looks like. You can now render a virtual keyboard in your game if you need to for whatever reason, logins, etc., etc. You don't have to use the default, whichever one is built right in, so you have a little bit more control there. And
it's not quite accurate. What it actually is, so that keyboard at the bottom is the OS native keyboard, but what it's doing is when you type on the native keyboard, it goes right into the engine. So that's a Slate widget there, whatever, with the email address. And so you're using the native keyboard, whatever language you want. It could be like a, Japanese keyboard or whatever that we don't know how to do anything about.
I misunderstood Chris Babcock.
Yeah, so you're typing on the Android keyboard. We had it already for iOS, but now it's on Android as well. So it just makes it a little more feeling like you're inside the game. You don't have to have an ugly, OS dialogue popping up where you type in. You're doing it directly into the game's UI instead of a secondary pop-up UI, which is what we had before.
That's a very good explanation. Thank you.
Yeah, it's ends up being really hard, and there are unfortunately some Android devices that don't actually ship with a keyboard, it's really bizarre things, or they're at the top of the screen.
What?
Yeah.
I've never even seen that before.
Apparently that's a thing. So the trickiest part of all this actually is making sure that the UI, or that your game UI slides up to be visible. So as you're typing, you can see what you're typing. And so we do send callbacks from the keyboard stuff into the game saying, hey, we think there's a keyboard here. It's easy on iOS. On Android, it's a little tricky because the weird, upside down keyboard or whatever makes it so you don't really know where the keyboard is. But we try to.
I think you're making that up.
Help it out. This is what Chris told me.
Okay.
I haven't seen it myself, but I don't have.
If Chris said it, then I believe it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So anyway, it's kind of early. But you can activate it. I'm not sure exactly the way to do it on Android now, but yeah.
Awesome. Cool. Good stuff. Runtime permissions on Android. This is pretty great, actually. So 4.16, this is a note up top there that's very important. 4.16 requires Android SDK 23 or higher to be installed. Anything lower, and you're going to have problems, big problems, like it won't run problems. What's important about this one is it adds a bunch of new exposed Blueprint nodes for those of you who are just trying to do as much as you can in Blueprints and not C++. It's things like check Android permissions, request Android permissions, and on permissions granted dynamic delegate. So you have those three that you can now work with instead of having to dive straight into code to get them. And that's, of course, as you can see, those just basic pop-ups that say allow, deny, etc. And you can check that information. It's just good descriptors.
This is for Android's new system where instead of having to agree to all these crazy permissions when you download the app in the first place, it'll ask each time you go to use something, can I use a camera? Can I use the internet? I think that's one of them. Can I use the keyboard or whatever? So
can I post from your Twitter account?
Can I get location stuff? Yeah. So it's kind of similar now. It's again similar now to how iOS used to do it. Although that one is, I'm not sure if there's Blueprint nodes to handle the iOS side. But since
just as Android as far as
I know. When I think it sort of blocks. It might block the game on iOS. You don't have to worry about the delegate callback. But yeah, with the Android one, like you have to wait for the user to actually allow or deny. So the delegate callback is to let you know that the answer was what the user selected.
Super cool. Improved animation blending space raider. Whoa, that's weird. The animated GIFs totally didn't work on my other PC, but they totally work here. So that's great.
That's weird.
Yeah, I know. So that's a good bonus.
And like now you can see samples. I guess we had the samples before, but we removed it while cleaning the UI. But people said that they need it, so we brought it back. And now you can see them, and you can just drag and drop. The usability should be a lot better, and it looks prettier. So.
Looks really nice. Very cool. Exposed opacity and opacity mask options for material flattening. Unless any of y'all have any more comments on this one I'm just going to have to say you're going to have to check out the bullet points on. It's a little bit out of my wheelhouse as far as exactly what's been going on with it, but you should be able to use this for a couple of rendering improvements. We'll have a lot more details on that in the final release notes as well. Import capsule collision from FBX. This is really great. I think this was this Matt Kuhlenschmidt? I want to say it might be someone else.
It was either him or somebody on the edit. It definitely wasn't
it wasn't
me.
you,
No,
but it was.
Sure.
That's what I was thinking. Is like it was either him or Gloria, but I do know this is really useful for if you're in 3ds Max, Maya, etc., and you just put your collision shape of a capsule around your character in there, and you're using that for reference. Well, now you can just put UCP prefix right in front of that capsule. And then when you import it, you should be able to let it auto-convert into our capsule collision system, which will just try to, get the best dimensions it can to match that capsule. It's pretty straightforward, but it just takes away one step, so you can just do it right in the 3D modeling program. So, play montage blueprint node.
So this is really cool. Like Laurent worked on this one, and basically it's like a latent node in the blueprint that plays. And then when it's done or something happens, they trigger the event. So it's not like any blueprint node. It's like a node that you can use in any blueprint, but it's more working like AI move to or delay kind of way. So it plays, and when it's done, it's gonna trigger some of those events. And depending on what happens, you can do stuff. You can even get the notified now. So it's very cool. Yeah.
Yeah, and when you said it was kind of like the AI move to system,
Yeah.
I see what you mean where it has like the failures out, is like how it
Yeah.
tells you like how it messed up or how you reached the destination. So now you can say on completed, on blend out, etc. Those
Yeah,
are
all-
those are pretty useful.
Yeah, so it's very cool. Like you just put like a montage, and then when it's interrupted, I want to do something else or something.
Yeah, and I see you also have an output for notify name. So when
Yeah.
you do pull the notify execute, you can figure out exactly which one it is and then parse through
Yeah.
and switch based on it. That's cool.
Mhm.
Very nice. Options for retargeting poses, support for importing retargeting base pose.
So before retargeting, we had an option for one pose. So you can actually just tweak your base pose to
Mhm.
like a T or A, whatever you want, depending on your source or target, like pose you want to retarget to, because you have to have the same base pose. But now you can save those as an asset in the pose asset, and now just you can use whatever pose you want. So you can create the pose asset called like retarget poses, and then you can have A pose, T pose, whatever the pose you want based on target source, the target, the mesh. So it's a lot simpler because I got this request a lot, like I want to have multiple poses. How do I have multiple poses? And I'm like, save to the asset now. So now you can use the asset.
That's very nice. And I see that you have on there, it's posture, crouch. Is that just for an example, or is that one that you're going to pre-built in?
That's not the best example. Idea is like A pose or T pose.
Uh-huh.
Like even like anybody is talking about, they want to make that pose in the Maya.
Yes.
So they just want to have a pose in the Maya. They want to import those poses. So yeah, but you can, once you select import, then you're gonna see the crouch, the pose names. So you can choose which pose you want to use.
I see. Very cool. Sequencer improvements, sequencer shot track enhancements. This one's all a little bit vague. You're going, like I said, there's a couple of these notes out here that we're going to have to expand more on in the actual releases themselves. But you can animate material parameters in sequencer. Audio tracks improved, of course, what with all the new audio engine improvements that, of course, propagated over to how audio tracks work in sequencer, and they worked on that a bit too. Check out all of those. And then, let's see, Vertex Interpolator Material Node. These are really nice and actually condense down a lot of other material functionality that you'd have to build out normally in order to get the same effect, to give you the same controls. But this is, for you out there in the material world, you're going to want to implement these if you are using customized UVs, etc., and you just kind of want to mess around with them and have, like I said, more control. That's what they give you. Next up, Asset Management Framework. This is, again, an early access thing, but what it should start helping you do, and you're going to have to go into the experimental modes and turn this one on if you actually want to mess around with it. It's going to allow you to have a new global object that can be used to discover, load, and audit maps and game-specific asset types. As it says here, it's good for framework for quests, weapons, heroes, load them on demand, etc. And then it can help you with cooking and chunking when packaging. Again, I feel like this one's going to end up being a tutorial once it comes out in full, because it's quite a lot at once. Can't really summarize it too quickly, but it's awesome. Next up is the asset audit window, which is a part of the asset management framework. This allows you to just see a lot more details about your assets all at once in one nice fancy list and all of their properties. It's a really nice little improvement if you're trying to optimize, cook out, take things out, and figure out what's going south as far as bad assets or assets that are way too large or a problem. Custom hardware cursors. That we didn't have a picture for it, but Nick Darnell made a really cute one, so I'm rolling with that. Custom hardware cursors are now available in 4.16. This has been a long-standing request, and we've been working on it for quite a bit to make sure that it is implemented properly. Thank you so much, Nick, for working on this one. So Windows, Mac, and Linux are supported, which are the really important things here, and they provide multiple formats for the cursors, so you can just kind of load up a bunch of different types of cursors depending on the platform they're going to show up on, and then it'll load up the appropriate cursor. It's a very cool feature for that. Wait.
That's it.
What? Oh, wow. Hey, that is it. For some reason, I thought that we had one more, but I was totally wrong, and that's it for the day. But those are some of the 4.16 release notes and us talking about them. But if you check out when the full Look at me. Like, I get through all that, and now I'm just tripping over myself.
Too excited.
So when the full 4.16 release notes come out, you're going to want to, of course, scan through all of those. There are going to be a lot more details on how some of these things work, how to implement them, and a lot of other features we didn't mention here that were considered minor features. And of course, a list of bug fixes that's like a novella. By the way, thank y'all for working on all of those bug fixes.
The three of us did them all.
I know
Just
it
three of
was
us, yeah.
you personally fixed every bug in that giant list of like several thousand bugs. but
We're
yeah,
very busy.
yes. So thank you all so much for coming on and helping me to show everyone all these new awesome features.
Yep.
And I hope to have you all, of course, on in future streams to give tutorials on how they all work. So that'll be a lot of fun. But until next time, we'll see you all around. Thank you for coming on, and thank you all for watching our pre-recorded stream.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Later.